Hey guys, I'm back, and today we are taking a closer look, doing a full review on the Mantis Knives Gearhead. I got this in the most recent battle box, so July, mission 53. Now the Gearhead is one that it's an interesting knife, to say the least. I had said in my original battle box, look at this knife, that it had won some awards at Blade Show. I don't know where I thought that from, but it didn't. It's just a very interesting, unique knife design. And you can see that all here. It's a very unique design, as knives go. It's obviously put out by Mantis Knives, who, I gotta say, as a knife producer, I'm not impressed by a lot of their stuff. It's designed by Gavin and Grant Hawk, who's a father and son team, and they have designed some really cool stuff. I guess really the big selling point, the heart of this thing, is this gear system, which, if you take a look at the action, so it's got a lever here, and when you hit the lever, and it's got a little bit of a detent you got to get through, but when you hit the lever, the gears rotate and open the blade, and then it's held open by a liner lock. Now, I'm going to say this at the outset of this video, because I know that there's some people that talk about how useful is this knife and what is it good for and what do you do with it, and I'm gonna on my typical rating scale, one of the things I talk about is utility and practicality and stuff. So I'm gonna acknowledge, even though I'm gonna talk about ratings, I'm gonna acknowledge right now that Gavin Hawk himself says, and this is a quote, "It's meant to be cool and interesting more than anything else." That's exactly what he said about this design. So one of the designers, they've acknowledged this is supposed to be more designed for the look of it than anything else, than hey, check out my cool knife. Even with the designer having said, it's about an interesting kind of cool looking knife, we're still going to look at it in terms of how usable is it, because it's got a significant price tag attached to it. And you see there's already some kind of fuzz in there, and that's going to play into the ratings later. We'll talk about that. This knife is only about 2 days old. Well, I've had it for about 2 days, opened for about 2 days. I don't know how old this actual knife is off the production line. So anyway, going back to the beginning, when you look around online, and I've had to look, you're going to find some sources that say this has an Aus 8 blade. You're going to find some sources that tell you the handles are Aus 8 steel. The liners might be Aus 8 steel, I don't know, but so what we've got on this knife overall, because I've done the research, and you can take this as good because I've spoken to some people, all the blades are 440C. The handles are aluminum. Now, as to what specific alloy or content, I don't know. But you've got aluminum alloy handles, and I've tested them with magnets to make sure. Non-magnetic. You do have a stainless steel backspacer that runs through here. So that's basically the main materials you're looking at. Aluminum and 440C. There's also a whole host of different model numbers depending on the blade style. So it comes in drop point and tanto. It comes in straight edge and half serrated. And it comes in a black wash, which it's hard to see in this light. It's not just a solid coating. Can you see sort of the black wash finish there? It's not just a solid black finish. It's kind of like a black stone wash, and satin finish. The gear also comes in a brass, a copper, and more of a natural metal finish. So there's lots of different models out there. It's important to decipher the code that's on the Mantis website and know which model you've got. So they're all GH20s, right? And then the 21 determines your blade, and then the DPC, all the other features. So like I said, just go online and look, and you'll see different finishes, different colors of the gear, and all that other stuff. Even the finish on your scales here can be this kind of grayish gunmetal color, or more of a satin finish metal color. So options out the wazoo. The blade is, and I'm going to say because I've looked this up, and again verified, measured, 3.38 inches. So a little less than 3.5. On Mantis's own website, they call it a 4-inch blade. I don't know if they're rounding up or what. So, you know, the thing is, I don't know why. There's a lot of disinformation about this blade. And I shouldn't say disinformation, because disinformation implies that they're intentionally trying to mislead people. Misinformation, I should say, about this knife out there. Maybe because it's relatively new or whatever. I'm not sure. But all of that, you know, you gotta talk to some people in the field. I actually did the research. I talked to some people at Knife Center when I was like looking at it and said, hey, I just want to know the straight poop on this. What do you got? And Knife Center is an authorized distributor and everything, so they kind of know what's going on. So I've had this knife in my hand for a couple days now, and I've carried it around a little bit. I haven't really used the blade much. I've just mainly messed with the action on the gear system. And you know, you guys that are familiar with my channel know that I value function over form every time. I like a knife that is more useful than anything. I like a knife that performs. So, you know, I'm more likely to pick one that is functional over cool. So I'm going to let you guess on the outset what my overall evaluation of this knife is going to be before we even start. And it might surprise some people, it might not surprise others. I am not a fan of the opening lever to begin. All things being equal, bearings and weight and balance and everything, a good flipper or thumb studs is just quicker and easier to open than the counterbalance and the momentum and the detent, you know, using this lever thing. Now, yes, once you get it broken in, and if you find just that little sweet spot on the end there, it's a lot easier than initially. I had my whole thumb on there, and, you know, you kind of have the weight on forward on the lever. It makes it a lot easier when you just kind of grab the end. And that's another thing. If your hand is anywhere near the blade, it's going to foul it up. Every once in a while, my big fat hand kind of impedes the blade right there. Because your hand is just in a different position opening this than when you have thumb studs or even a flipper. If it had a flipper, your hand would be like so. If it had thumb studs, your hand would be like so. For me to get my hand on this lever, I'm just naturally kind of like so, and sometimes my big fat hand comes over the blade, which can hold it up. When you get the mechanics down and you're holding it the right way, it is pretty good, but it's a learning curve. Having broken this in a little bit, it's a lot better and easier now than it was before, but it's still, it feels a little bit unnatural. And while it's artsy, and you get to watch the gears go around, you know, it is what it is. The blade out of the package, though, it came nice and sharpened, nicely done, and you do have a nice, long, slicing edge. So if you were going to carry this for routine stuff, and I would not call this a hard use knife at all. But if this was going to be your EDC type knife, you do have a very nice fine edge to work with. It actually has an excellently finished blade. One of the finest pull-throughs ever. And slicing is great. Have a little trouble doing kind of like a push right through the cord. But again, for the slicing, it's just set up great. So for EDC tasks, I think it's done very, very, very well. For your general setup, you can see you've got your liner lock there with lots of blade area to contact in that large wheel. You've got not quite a deep carry clip, but hey, Ethan, it is tip up, right hand carry only, so no opportunity to switch it around. It is very open, and that leads me to a concern I have for any kind of carry. Now, going back to when they said it's, you know, mainly for looks and style and all that stuff, but what if you did want to carry this? The chances of, you know, lint in your pocket or dirt or anything gumming up the works and messing up your mechanics on this knife are high. Lots of open space there for stuff to get in. So interesting design, steampunky and stuff. Definitely a conversation starter, to watch. But in terms of your actual practical use, just there's so many things that worry me. You can see that the pivot all the way through rotates too, so little areas there to get jammed up, all sorts of stuff. I mean, if you wanted to get it as a collection queen, that's one thing, but it seems almost designed to where you wouldn't want to carry it. Although I'm sure that, again, although I'm sure there are some people that would want to carry it, that would want to. If you can see in there, you can see that your liner lock is nicely inset and anchored to this part of the frame right there. So covered by the scale. It has, some weight to it, and I'm not thrilled by the weight and balance. It's very back heavy, very handle heavy. For your comfort, once again, they were going for the fanciness in that pivot, I think. It's not a super comfortable knife. Now, it does give enough real estate on there for, the biggest hands to hold on to. But this clip does kind of, I feel it in my hand no matter how I choose to hold it. There's not a real comfortable way to choke up if you were going to. There's not a real comfortable way for you to choke up if you were going to, if you wanted to. And it's not contoured really well for holding. The shape is what it is. I'm not a huge fan of the size. Now, the lanyard hole is pretty well situated so that if you are a lanyard fan, that's going to be almost perfect. But besides that, I feel this in my thumb when I wrap my hand around it, if I'm anywhere near it. These corners over there, it's not terribly uncomfortable. It's just not designed with comfort in mind. You can kind of tell. No jimping to speak of, and this would have been an excellent place to put some right there, especially with the lack of other comfort or contour or grip or anything else like that around. I think it would have been a nice touch. But it's not going anywhere in your hand unless it's like super wet and slippery. You do have that bit of jimping right there on the lock, so I just noticed that brass copper plate is moving. Okay. And yeah, stuff just clings to that, especially since it comes with lots of oil in there. Oil attracts all sorts of dirt and everything. So you can see the lock up here as it comes. And the lockup has not moved, I don't think. And this thing is dead center. I mean, that's good. I didn't show that before. It does come out of the box dead center. Action is still nice and smooth. No real blade play to speak of. What this design does give you, though, looking at it, is lots of room for customization as I look at this. As you strip off these parts, thinking about going to the shop and everything, engraving, cerakoting, hydrographics, lots and lots of stuff to make each one of these individually your own, if you were into that, if you wanted to. Yes, it's available in a couple different finishes, but if you really wanted to make this thing stand out, the way it's not necessarily modular, the way, in the sense that you can plug and play pieces, but the way it all comes apart into its components very neatly, you can do lots of different things with all those different parts and really customize the crap out of this knife if you were so inclined to do that. I could take this to the shop if I had a couple of these and have a field day with that. Now, why would I not? That leads us into the price. This is a $200 knife. $199.99 I think is, or $195 is the best I found it for online. You're paying, sure, for this fanciness here, but I mean, in my opinion, when you think about it, you're paying for aluminum and 440C. You're paying S35 VN and titanium prices for aluminum and 440C, and if it wasn't for this gear thing right there, I don't think anybody would pay that. I really don't. You're paying for the conversation piece factor of, I have a knife that opens with a lever and a bunch of gears. So you know, maybe they are planning to release a better bladed, fancier handled one, but I have to imagine they're going to pump the price up an extra $100, maybe $150. You know, if they're charging $200 for this and people are paying, you know, I see them charging $350 for something with like M390 and titanium, which for $200 you should be getting something similar to that already. This is something that would be a collection queen in my collection. It's not something I'd want to carry around. The constant cleaning out of these gears and worrying about all that is just, it's not something I'd want to deal with. The unnatural feel of having a lever opening my blade is just, it's an interesting, it's a nifty factor. And you know, the thing is, from what I've been looking at and talking to some people, nobody is just like, oh, that's okay. People love this or they hate this, but there's nobody that's like, nah, that's cool, that's all right. People are like, oh, that's super sweet, that's awesome. Or like, what a dumb fucking knife. You know, I haven't met anybody that's really in between there. So people either hate this and are going to stay away from it, or love it and are willing to pay for that right there. And that, I mean, that's what all the money is. That's what you're paying for on this knife. Had I not gotten it in Battle Box, might have honestly been suckered by the innovation factor and wanted to check it out, but I would not have been happy with the purchase once I got it. And if I had gotten an opportunity to put my hands on it in a store, I would not have ended up buying it. I would have said, nope, not for me. Now that I have it, you know, not only will I keep it for the collection factor, but, you know, it's part of my Battle Box Knife of the Month collection, so it'll, you know, sit in there. The more moving parts you put into something, number one, I learned this in the military a long time ago, the more moving parts a machine has, the more parts there are to break and fail, but it also makes this a mechanical device and not just a simple knife that's like, you know, an extension of yourself. I don't know, just, there's something about it. But let's do the ratings. I know my regular viewers are used to my 5-point rating system. If you're new to the channel, you're about to figure out how I do my 5-point rating system. It's got 10 categories, rated 1 to 5. We'll do them all, then add them up and get an average overall score. So we start with number 1, originality and departure from previous designs. And obviously, this thing has to get a 5 in originality, because quite frankly, there is nothing else that looks like this. Nothing else that Mantis puts out, nothing else that anybody else puts out. Yes, it does have the look of a steampunky thing, but I mean, in terms of the knife action and everything, this stands on its own. So we'll get a 5 there. It definitely is original. And fit and finish is, I have to say, outstanding. Perfect centering out of the box. Everything is done very, very nicely. There are some parts where you can't even see the seams between pieces, but everything just seems to be put together perfect. I mean, the pieces in this are like born to go together, and it's done beautifully. For function and mechanics, I'm giving it a 4.5 because there is that awkwardness of the lever. You have to get the lever right. Chance of your hand getting in the way. So the mechanics of it work great, but functionality-wise, there is that learning curve. It's not just pick up and open like any other knife. You have to get your hand positioned just right. And sometimes, you know, I've noticed that if I haven't used it for a little bit and I put it down again, it does give me that initial resistance to getting it right back open. But 4.5 is nothing to sneer at. The biggest hit this thing is going to take is in the category of practicality and utility. Owing again a lot to this right here. I would never want to carry this EDC because, or in the woods or whatever, or hard to use, anything. This to me reminds me of carrying the Beretta 92F, the M9, in the field. You get that thing a little bit dirty, and you know it just jams up on you. And I'm afraid this would do the same thing. I'm afraid this you're going to spend so much time cleaning out that wheel and those gears. I just don't know what would happen to this thing. So the utility value and the practicality of a knife you're constantly having to clean out and has all this mechanical moving parts, it just reduces it. It's, you know, we go back to the KISS principle. There's a reason there is the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. It works. I will reference once again, okay, Gavin Hawk did say that they designed this more for looks and to be interesting than anything else, but I got this, BattleBox, for example, chose this as the knife of the month, and BattleBox is for tactical adventure gear. That's their motto. So, is this, tactical adventure? Is this a usable knife? I mean, I buy knives to use them, not just to look pretty, and that's what I'm evaluating this on, even though I know that, the designer said they wanted an interesting design. We're always looking about, can you use the knife? So, in terms of can you use it, it's going to get a 2 in practicality and utility. For production out of the box standards, we're jumping right back up to a 4.5. It does almost everything perfectly. The blade comes great. I love the pull through, the slice, the paper, everything's good. Had a little bit of issue just slicing through some stuff right here on the new stump. But, I mean, in terms of a nice sharp blade out of the box, you've got that. And once again, put together really nice. For comfort and feel, I'm going to give it a 3.5. Like I said, it's not uncomfortable. It's just not. I don't think it's built for comfort in mind. And it doesn't have the feel of a knife that they really designed for you to get a good grip on and use, obviously. 3.5 isn't bad. It's a little bit better than average. For cool factor, I'm going to give it a 4. Cool factor in this case being more of a conversation starter than anything else. Like I said before, there's going to be some folks that are going to think this is uber cool, awesome, and there's going to be some folks that are going to think this is downright stupid. So when I say cool factor, I just mean something that catches the eye and makes people say, hey, let me take a look at that. What is that? And this has that. It definitely has that. It's something that people haven't seen. Quality materials, we're going to give it a 3. I mean, very average. 440C and aluminum. We can do much better than that, especially for this price. Value of ownership and collectability, I'm going to give it a 4. So here's my rationale there. I don't think this is a full production piece. It's not like limited edition. It's not like, I don't think this is going to go up in value a whole lot. But it is going to be out of the price range of a lot of different people at the price they're selling it right now. So in terms of collecting it, yeah, I mean, it's different. I don't know if you're ever going to see this kind of pivot on any knife again. I think it's worth having in your collection. I don't think that it's going to be something that's going to, you're not going to leave this to your kids one day and they're going to sell it and, make a bunch of money on it. I don't think it's one of those types of pieces. I think it's interesting. It's different, but it's definitely not one of those precious pieces, priceless pieces one day. Not at all. For value to price ratio, though, this has to take a hit. We're going to go with 3.5. I think it is very overpriced for what they're giving you. I recognize this is different and stuff, but I also recognize that this is a full production knife, and I don't think that the materials they're using are all that expensive. I know that running stuff off on machines can be a little expensive. I also know that we're doing it in bulk, and I mean, it's not. I just don't think this is a $200 knife. With the blade steel being 440 and just kind of thin aluminum slabs for the handles and the frame and stuff, I think that they're charging what they think they can get because it's fancy. I do not think that the value to price is there. I think that this is a $100 knife, maybe. Definitely not a $200 knife. Again, if they increase the value of the materials, they come up with better blade steel one day, and maybe they even leave the aluminum, but they give us like titanium scales, on top of that frame, that changes the picture a little bit. But for right now, no. So when we add all those up, we get an overall score of 39, which averaged out gives us an average overall score of 3.9. Not great, not terrible. It's not one that I would highly recommend you run out and buy unless you really are into that right there. I think that is really the only selling point. If you took that away, this knife would be something very akin to anything else made in China right now. some aluminum and 440C. I mean, we're talking without this right here, this doesn't have much value at all. It really doesn't. I have read online rumors that Grant and Gavin Hawk are going to produce some custom versions of this out of some good materials sometime in the future. Those would be worth some money, even if you're not going to use them. Just that they are going to be custom G&G Hawk made ones, not these production ones out of these materials. But as it stands, I mean, besides just being able to have this in your collection and to take it out and show your guys or gals or whatever, hey, check this out. I just don't see the value in it. I mean, that's me though. Knife collecting is always a personal experience, and you know what? While I always say, like, you know, there's a value to price ratio, and that, you know, this is worth this or this not worth this. The ultimate worth is what makes you happy. So if you have $200 to throw around and this is what makes you happy spending it, go for it. It is a kind of a unique piece to have. So that about wraps up my thoughts and evaluation of the Mantis Gearhead. What do you guys think? So I would love to hear from somebody, because I have a feeling I'm going to hear a lot of people who say, like, oh, it's overpriced, oh, I don't like it. I would love to hear from somebody who does really love this design, and I'd love to hear why you like it. I think, you know, I'd love for somebody to stick up for it and say, like, hey, here's what you overlooked, or here's why it's really cool. Please remember, guys, that I am one guy doing my reviews, you know, my one opinion at a time, and I always love hearing from other folks who have their opinions to contribute. So I would really love to hear from anybody out there who wants to contribute an opinion. I would really love to hear from anybody out there that wants to share their opinion on this. Good, bad, indifferent, or otherwise. So, I'll put in a plug, because I was recommended that I should. YouTube is changing up their stuff again, so if you're enjoying my videos, make sure you hit subscribe and the notification bell. I guess a lot of people aren't getting the notifications. They're changing up the notification system. Please check out all the links in the video description, including a link to my Amazon influencer page, where you'll see as many of the different things I've reviewed as I think are decent anyway. Link to my Patreon page and email addresses where you can contact me if you want to, my Facebook. Hope you all are enjoying a beautiful sunny day wherever you are, like we are here. And don't forget that you are all absolutely awesome. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will be back again real soon.